Hi, welcome back to Drafting 263 3D CAD. We are going to go ahead and we're going to continue on through this text. We're going to work through Chapter 7 together. And Chapter 7 is all about linear patterns and circular patterns. And patterns are useful features because they allow us to not have to draw every single piece of something that's got a repeating element individually. You can utilize the tools of SolidWorks to repeat an element on a pattern fairly quickly and easily. As usual, I've got the PowerPoints for this chapter. It's a short little 3 or 4 or 5 slide file that you can look at that kind of summarizes the high points of this chapter, and those will be on eCompanion in document sharing for you. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my screen, and we are going to walk through this chapter activity together. Okay, starting on page 7-1, there is a little image up in the corner of the sample tray that we're building. And you may or may not have seen these, but these are found in analytical chemistry labs or other places that need to put little samples in trays, and they're meant to hold little bitty snap-top files full of stuff so they don't tip over, and so you can pack more than one at a time because they're itty-bitty. So let's go ahead and build this thing starting on 7-3. We're going to draw on the top plane, so this is a horizontal piece. And we're going to draw that rectangle with its lower right corner on the origin. So we're going to do a corner rectangle. Sorry, lower left corner, not lower right. And let's add some dimensions. We want this guy to be 5 inches tall and 9.5 inches wide. Okay. Now we're going to extrude this up into a block. And we are going to do a blind condition and make it 1/2 inch deep. Okay. And there's our basic shape. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sketch on this top face, and we are going to put in a circle down here in this corner. And we're going to place that circle centered 1 inch up from the lower edge and 1 inch in from the end. And we want our circle to be 1 inch in diameter. There we go. We're going to go ahead and extrude this guy down. I'm going to put this back in 3 dimensions so you can see. We're going to go down, and we are going to go 2 inches with a draft angle of 7 degrees, and we want that drafting inwards so that we make that little cone shape. We're going to say okay. Okay, now we are going to make our pattern. We're going to do a linear pattern, and for direction 1 we want to select this bottom horizontal edge. Hold on a second, I'll be right back.
Where are you? No, you don't have to go.
I'm recording.
Oh, I thought you were talking.
No, I'm recording. What's up?
Nothing. What'd you get from in there?
He wants to know what CAD stuff I'm using. I'll write him back in a minute.
Okay. Saw the letter that the Peloton guy sent you.
Yeah, it was nice.
That was very nice. Very, very nice.
How was class?
Good.
If you want lunch, you'll have to wait a few minutes till I finish this recording.
No, I'll head home, eat some
Okay.
ham and beans,
Okay.
get stabbed with a needle.
Oh, that's right. When you doing that?
1:45.
You have to come back in.
No, it's a Pilot Rock to the high school.
Okay. Help Daddy with the house, and if he hasn't gotten the steak out, please get some.
He did.
out. Okay.
We got like 4.
Excellent.
Out.
Are they 4 packages?
Yeah. I don't know, cause his dad. He doesn't make any sense. It might not all be steak. There might be some hamburger or something else there too. But he did get some out. I saw that. All right. Talk to you later. Bye, honey. Bye, Mama.
Sorry for that brief interruption. My daughter stopped in to say hi between classes. Okay, so we have set our pattern. We've chosen our dimension 1, and we are going to space these at 1.5 inches. So we're going to change this entry here to 1.500, and we want a total of 6 of them going the other direction. There we go. Okay. Now, for our second dimension, we're going to click in here and choose the end. And we are going to space these at 1.5. We're going to do 3 of them. And you can kind of see them in yellow. They're spreading throughout my tray. And I am going to say, okay. And so now you can see I've got these little cones. We just need to shell them out, which we will do utilizing the shell feature. So we're going to click shell, and we are going to select the top face, and we are going to leave a thickness of 1/10 of an inch, so 0.1, and we're going to say okay. And there we go. Now we just need to fillet our edges, so we eliminate the sharp edges. And we are going to put in a radius of 5/100ths of an inch. And we're going to fillet everything. So I'm going to right click and use a box and select it all. And that will select all of my edges, and we are just going to say okay. And just that quick, we have made a tray full of sample holders, or a sample tray. We did not have to individually draw each and every little circle and extrude it out. We were able to use the pattern feature. We're going to go on. I'm going to save this as Chapter 7, so DRF263 Chapter 7 sample tray. And we're going to now go ahead and finish out the next activity in Chapter 7, which is a spur gear. And this will utilize circular patterns. So you can make circular patterns in both, or you can make patterns linearly and circularly. You'll see that we can also make a pattern along a curve or along a sketch. We'll play with all of these as we move through the term. For now, let's go ahead and open up a new sketch and a new part. And this time I'm on page 711, and I'm going to sketch on I'm going to make that spur gear that's pictured on page 710. So starting on 711, we're going to sketch on the front plane. And I'm going to insert a center line starting from the origin, going upward. Oops. First, I am going to change my units down here into inches. And now I'll go back into my sketch. There we go. Okay, now let's do my horizontal. Nope, not yet. Let's go ahead and turn on my dynamic mirroring.
Thank you, I appreciate this. We'll see you next Tuesday then.
There we go. Dynamic mirror across this sketch line. There. And I'm going to sketch that profile shown on page 711, but I'm only going to sketch one half of it. So I'm going to start down here at the bottom. And notice it does not start at the origin. It's somewhere above the origin. Because what we're doing is we're putting in the profile that will allow us to rotate it and make our wheel shape. So I'm going to sketch this basic pattern. Try to avoid those dotted lines when they show up. If you have troubles avoiding them, you can use, unless of course you want them, like for example, I want this one to be vertical. But I don't necessarily want that one to be 45, nor do I want it equal to that one or parallel. So I'm going to use my control key and turn off those automatic relations. And that just makes it a little easier not to get in a relation I don't want. And finish out my shape and say, okay. All right, now I need to return the page. We're going to add some relations. So I'm going to click over here. I move that bar or that menu bar. Yours may be elsewhere. Just add relations and add collinear. Say OK. Now we're going to add an equal relation between these three slanted lines. This one and that one. And that one, and we want those to be equal. And you'll notice that because I'm mirroring the shape, that keeps it symmetrical. Okay, now I'm going to add my revolve center line, which is a horizontal line starting at the origin. And now we're going to add some dimensions. So I'm going to start at the bottom actually, and I'm going to first dimension this line to be 1/2 an inch above the center line. I'm going to get this slanted edge over here and set it at 135 degrees from the vertical. I'm going to dimension this vertex to be 1 inch from that center line. I'm going to dimension this vertex to be 2.5 inches from the center line. Whoops, that was the wrong vertex. Let's undo that. Oh no, that was right. Put that back in. I was confused because now I'm going to dimension the top here. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to dimension this slanted line. Whoops. Let's get my smart dimension back. I want to dimension this slanted line to that vertical. And I want the angle to be 30 degrees. And now this top line to my center line needs to be 3 inches. There we go. That doesn't look right.
Whatever. Okay. It'll be one of those you're gonna say, what's happening? I want a 12 by 12 and an 8 by 8.
Let's put in this. Let's see what it does. That should be 1.25. And this should be an inch. Okay, that looks pretty good. I've got a lot of noise on there, so let's go ahead and not display my relations. There we go. Okay. Let's revolve this guy. So we're going to go out to features. We're going to revolve it. We're going to revolve about this horizontal axis here, and you can see we're making a wheel. It's a hollow wheel with some cutout, with some recessed faces. There are a couple of different ways we could have built this. We could have extruded it on the front plane, but it was just as simple or we could have extruded it, but we can also draw the profile and then revolve it. So this is what we're going to do. And we're going to click, and we want it to go blind 360 degrees, and we're going to say okay. And there we go. Basic wheel shape. Let's go ahead and save this in case we need to back up to this point. DRF Chapter 7, spur gear. Okay, now what we're going to do is we are going to cut out our teeth. And we're going to do this by clicking on this face. And we're going to sketch. And I'm going to change my view to normal too. And the first thing I'm going to do is put in the vertical center line, starting from the origin. And I'm again going to use dynamic mirroring around that center line. And we're going to sketch in our tooth. Now we're going to sketch in our tooth using a 3-point curve and a line, or rather a 3-point arc. The top point you want to be on the top of your wheel. And then when you pull this down, go ahead and put it on the line that shows up that references through the, well, it doesn't really matter. Go ahead and just click it in there. And then you need to click in a third point to tell SolidWorks what the basic shape is that you want to make. And I'm just going to click and then say OK. And now we're going to put in a line that joins the bottoms. But since we're mirroring, we only need to go to our axis across which we're mirroring, and we want a horizontal line. So go ahead and click and say OK. Now let's put in, so we're going to do something a little different. This right now is an edge. We want it to be a circle because we want to actually trim this out. So we can click on this and we can convert that thing from an edge to a circle just by clicking convert. Now what we can do is we can trim this edge away. Just like that. So the only place that circle edge still exists is in the middle here. And say OK. That utility will allow you to do things with your edges and take parts of them away to use them as extrusion surfaces, which is what we're going to do with this in a minute. So it's handy to realize until we take it, we separate that shape from the revolve, it's not a circle, it's actually an edge of the three-dimensional shape that we can convert into a circle as we need it. So let's go ahead and add our dimensions. I'm actually going to start with my outer horizontal dimension, and I want that to be about ½ inch, 0.515. And now I'm going to do my inner horizontal dimension, which I want to be 0.225 inches. And now I'm going to radius my curve at 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to place the bottom of my tooth 2.625 inches from the center. And now we're going to do an extruded cut based on this shape. We're going to go through all. And if I look in 3 dimensions, you can see what I'm doing is I'm cutting that groove through my wheel. I say OK. All right, now I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it. And we are going to put in our circular pattern. In order to do this, we need to take a look at some temporary axes, which you can get to a couple of different ways. I click on the eyeglasses, and then there's that little gray thing that's temporary axis. You can also get to it from the view menu bar. But what it does is it gives us a couple of little axes that might be relevant. One of them is this axis through the center that was automatically created, and that's the one we want. So we're going to stay here. And now we are going to click on circular pattern, which is underneath. It's behind the drop-down arrow under linear pattern. So click on that drop-down and find circular pattern. And we're going to click on this axis here as the axis about which we are going to pattern. We want equal spacing. We want 24 of them. And now we are going to click in here and select our extrude cut 1. And what that does is it puts the cut extrude 1. You can also click out here on this shape. But you can see that the yellow preview tells me I'm going to make 24 teeth equally spaced around this gear. And we're going to say OK. Let's go ahead and turn off those temporary axes so that my shape gets cleaned up a little bit. And there you can see the beginnings of my spur gear. Let me change this to plain white. There we go. A little bit less distraction. Okay. The only thing we're missing now from a spur gear is the keyway. And we are going to make that keyway by selecting the face upon which we want to draw. And we're going to go ahead and look at that normal. And we are going to open a new sketch. draft in our center line, vertical one. We're going to dynamically mirror across that line. And we're going to sketch in a little keyway. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in down here a little bit so I can see. And what we're going to do is we're just going to sketch in that little rectangle. Well, we're going to sketch in that keyway. And we are going to do that with lines. And come up. We want a vertical line. Now, I don't want to, I want to cut through this edge, but I don't want to cut all the way around, so I'm going to turn that thing into a circle. I'm going to trim it outside that keyway. And I am now going to extrude through all. I'm going to look in 3 dimensions, make sure it's doing what I want it to do. Whoops. Well, we can do it this way. I forgot to put in my dimensions. I'm going to show you that you can do that after the fact. We're going to go back here and do normal. And I'm going to select this guy and his sketch, and I'm going to edit that sketch. And what I'm going to do now is do what I should have done earlier, which is put in my dimensions. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here so I can see. And I want this line to be 0.625 inches from my center. And I want my keyway to be 1/4 of an inch wide. So now I click OK and I exit my sketch, and you can see that my keyway has taken on those dimensions. And if I view in 3 dimensions, I now have my completed spur gear. So we're going to save that. There are more things we can do with circular patterns. I'm going to leave you to work through that circular base mount that begins on page 7-24. And we will pick up with Chapter 8 when next I see you. Maybe. We may go through that curve pattern, that curve-driven pattern, the universal bracket. Let's take a quick look at what I asked you to do in the class for the Chapter 7 exercise. And I asked you to go through the base mount. So we will walk together through the curve, the universal bracket, because that's an important skill. And even though I did not specifically assign you a task in the textbook to build this universal bracket, do walk through that section of the text. And we'll see you again soon.